DJ Uiagalelei commits to Oregon State. Let's start with DJU because we had first a sort of DJU to Oregon thought. And then all of a sudden, Bo Nix says he's coming back. There was a DJU to UCLA thought, including one that I thought would really work out. And Chip Kelly ends up bringing on former Kent State quarterback Colin Schlee.
And Dante Moore.
Five-star quarterback signs in the class. There was maybe even a Washington thought. Well, Michael Penix is coming back. So we're scratching off all these West Coast teams for the former top player from the state of California to go to after leaving Clemson. He lands at Oregon State. What's your expectation for the ability for DJU to find some sort of renewal of his potential at Oregon State, and B, for Oregon State to be able to maximize what DJU can do?
I think this is a very interesting landing spot. I think it could be proved to be a very beneficial landing spot for DJU because, I mean, I know this is really odd to say about a Clemson program that has had Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence in recent years, but I just think that offense is more quarterback friendly at Oregon State right now than the Clemson offense is, or at least, if not quarterback friendly, more suited or more able to adapt to its quarterback strengths. And I feel like Clemson offensively struggled the last 2 years to adapt from having a Trevor Lawrence and a Deshaun Watson to a guy like DJU, who's just not the same player as they are. He's a very talented guy, but you've got to run a different offense to really build to their strengths. And I don't think Clemson did a good job of that. I think Jonathan Smith has shown an ability to do that. And so I think that going to Oregon State, where if you look at the Beavers this year, they won a bunch of games after losing their starting quarterback, and Ben Gulbranson comes in as a freshman. And no offense to the kid, he was doing everything he was, possibly could, but he was the weak point of that Oregon State offense. And you watched that team every week and you said, man, if they get a quarterback, like they could be pretty, they could still be pretty good again next year. DJ might be that quarterback. And look at what happened with Bo Nix. Bo Nix is at Auburn, kind of hitting his head up against the ceiling in the SEC of what he can be. He goes to Oregon, new offense, familiar face with the play caller, Kenny Dillingham. A little bit easier of a runway as far as what you're facing defensively week in and week out. And Bo Nix has kind of turned, the perception of Bo Nix around. Now there's talk about him being, a top pick in the NFL draft next year after he leaves school. Not the first round, but still a good draft pick. DJ kind of needs that fresh start. And I think Oregon State is going to be able to offer him that fresh start. I think now you look at the Pac-12, we talked about the ACC being the conference of quarterbacks in 2022, and obviously that didn't work out very well. But 2023, the Pac-12 from a quarterback perspective, very interesting.
Oh, yeah. And Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner right there at USC headlining that group. It is phenomenal. Here's what I think about Jonathan Smith at Oregon State across the last couple of seasons. That Jonathan Smith, of course, the former Oregon State quarterback who has, tried to not only just be like an offensive guy, it really seems like he's got that full investment in the entire team that he wants to have. But I think about flexibility and versatility because he has had to debut across the multiple quarterbacks that they've had in the last couple of seasons, several different offenses, and make tweaks along the way, sometimes within the same game. And yet they have continued to be able to field successful offenses, especially in the last 2 seasons. So when I've got a coach who is not going to try to force a quarterback into a system, but really mold around them, that is where I think DJ Uiagalelei is going to be able to find a good landing space. But it's going to be it is going to be very interesting to see whether the change of scenery is going to be able to benefit him, like you said, quite as much as Bo Nix, especially as we have them in the rivalry, in the same conference, right there in the Pac-12.